In this episode, we spend a lot of time with sharks, and Maria realizes she can talk underwater. I've been to Belize a few times before. I've snorkeled, sailed, fished, partied, and had amazing times. But I never even thought about diving there. I thought, snorkel, hold Chan, and that's pretty much it. You just don't hear people mention Belize other than the Blue Hole when they talk about good diving. Well, I'll let you decide for yourself, but for us, it was some really amazing diving. And I know not everyone does, but if you like diving with sharks, you're going to love this. In the last episode, we talked about diving the Blue Hole, and while maybe it wasn't spectacular, it was a very cool dive and we're really glad we did it. However, the two dives after that were absolutely spectacular, and they totally made that trip amazing. If you want to know more about the Blue Hole experience, check out our last video where we do a deep dive
I don't get it.
into what it was like diving the Great Blue Hole. The first dive site after the Blue Hole dive was Half Moon Caye. And almost as soon as we dropped down, we saw this beautiful eagle ray giving us a show. And then very soon after that, it was shark time. We saw sharks all week. We saw more reef sharks and nurse sharks than I have ever seen in 1 week of diving. It was absolutely amazing. At one point on the Half Moon Caye dive, the group was swimming through a canyon. I was the last one through, and I turned around and I see this big reef shark was just following along. Like, hey, what are you guys doing? He stopped following when I turned around, but I'm pretty sure he just swam around the reef and met us on the other side. It was so cool to see sharks swimming right along with us the whole dive. They weren't at all aggressive or threatening. They just seemed curious, like they wanted to come along on our swim. One time I was looking or filming off to the right, and Maria got my attention and pointed to my left where there had just been a shark that passed right next to me. Don't get me wrong, it's a little unsettling to realize that a huge shark just swam right past me and I didn't even notice it, or that a big shark was about to follow us through a canyon before I looked back. But there's just something amazing about being underwater with such powerful creatures in their habitat. I mean, these animals could rip a limb off under the wrong circumstances. I never felt afraid or threatened, but it's really humbling to realize how powerful they are. So they definitely get the adrenaline going, and while I wasn't afraid, there's absolutely an awareness of what they could do. But it's fascinating to see how they behave, and I have such gratitude for being able to have this experience, this adventure. The day after the Blue Hole trip, we got out and explored the island, including a great trip to Secret Beach. If you want to know more about Secret Beach, check out our last video where we list the top 6 adventures in Belize. The next day, we made the trip out to Turnip Atoll, which is about an hour-and-a-half boat trip from Ambergris Caye. We had really good dives there, and we got to do some lionfish hunting. As you may know, lionfish aren't native to the Caribbean, and the problem is that they don't really have any natural predators in the Caribbean. They multiply incredibly fast, and they have a huge appetite, so they can really take over a reef and destroy the fish population. Most places we dive in the Caribbean, they encourage taking lionfish off the reef. And not only does it help the health of the reef, they are delicious. We had a great day of hunting and spearing lionfish, and the crew made us a huge batch of ceviche from the lionfish we speared. On our last day of diving, we dove at the reef near our hotel. We dove Tackle Box and Tres Cocos. Tres Cocos is also the name of our hotel. And I tell you what, it was sharks all day long. Every dive was a shark dive. Reef sharks, nurse sharks, it just never stopped. It was amazing. If you don't know the difference between reef sharks and nurse sharks, the Caribbean reef sharks have that typical shark look, with the big dorsal fin and strong, sleek, thick body. Nurse sharks have a less prominent dorsal fin, thinner body, broad, flat head. They look like catfish more than a shark. They actually do suck food into their mouth like catfish do. The fun thing about the nurse sharks is that they're like sea puppies. They sometimes let you pet them. They're pretty playful. They'll follow you around, sometimes right under your feet like a puppy, and they look like they're begging for food. At one point, I even started trying to take selfies with the sharks. Swing and a miss. I think one of the reasons that all of the nurse sharks were following us around like you see here is because we were spearing lionfish and, well, they wanted some. After an incredible last day of diving, we made that last safety stop, got on the boat, and headed back to the hotel, and eventually back home. But I guarantee you that we will dive Belize again. It was an amazing and somewhat unexpected adventure.